Hey guys, it's Connie here. Welcome back to my channel. What the heck? Do you hear that? Right when I start filming a video, there is a gardener guy out there with some kind of long machine and he's like chopping down stuff. I can't see what he's chopping down, but he's chopping something down with a thing with a motor on it at the end. I hope you guys have been enjoying the vlogs that I have recently been uploading. It's been a little while since I did like a sit down sort of chit chat style video, and I thought I would do that because I've got something to share with you. There's a lot to think about this past year of just, and also the year before when I was pregnant, you know, the postpartum experience, and of course being a mom for the first time. So I thought, you know what, I thought I'd do sort of like a video where I would share my thoughts and reflections, things that surprised me that I wasn't expecting to happen, and maybe like a few sort of random tips for new moms, you know, whether you're pregnant, whether you're planning on getting pregnant, and stuff like that. So okay, so I'm gonna start with my pregnancy. My pregnancy was horrible. If you watched any of my pregnancy vlogs, I'll link the playlist down below, but you can see sort of like me being very sick. You know, obviously I'm not throwing up on camera and stuff, but I threw up so much. While I was pregnant, I talked to a lot of women who already gave birth and mommies who were pregnant. I talked to a lot of mommies, and none of them had it so bad the way I did. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, poor you, Connie, but it really was so bad. And my husband, you know, he felt so bad for me because I'd be running to the bathroom to just hurl into the toilet or the sink. I preferred the sink because it just took too much time for me to bend down on my knees and hurl in the toilet. You know what I mean? Like the sink was closer. I could just go right there. So that's how bad it was. Just the veracity, is that a word? Okay. Just the ferocity of the vomiting, number one. So that was really, really surprising. And you know, you hear all these stories about women who loved being pregnant. That was not the case for me, unfortunately. So that was pretty surprising. And you know, I didn't expect that. I'd never been pregnant before. All I wanted to, and I had this sort of fantasy about pregnancy as well. Like I thought I would love, you know, being pregnant, but I was one of those women, and I'm okay with saying this, but I hated pregnancy. And if you loved it, good for you. I'm happy for you. I wish I had your pregnancy, but that was not me. Anyways, okay, so postpartum. Let's talk about postpartum. I did not realize how hormonal you are, how vulnerable you can feel. And so ladies out there who are pregnant, just warn your husbands, after you give birth, you might be crying up a storm over every little thing. You're just gonna be really sensitive. Your hormones are just all crazy and out of whack after you give birth. So your body was producing certain hormones to keep you pregnant, you know, to help facilitate the life that's growing inside of you. And then once that life comes out of you and you give birth, then suddenly those hormones, they drop, and it's a really huge shift. So that's something that I wasn't expecting. Also postpartum, my hair was falling out like crazy. I mean, it was scary. And nobody told me that, you know, and I guess I didn't do enough research before I gave birth, you know, on the postpartum stuff. Like I didn't really do any research on postpartum stuff. Like, you know, you hear things here and there like, oh, it takes a while to recover, and you will have a little bit of hair loss, and but no, in my case, I was losing hair like crazy. And my mom even noticed that I still kind of do have some balding going on right here. Right now, the baby hairs that started to grow back, they're about this long now. I would say about 2.5 inches. So that's probably going to be another, I don't know, another year for it to get down to like at least my chin, you know? So yeah, that's something that I was not expecting. I literally thought there was something wrong with me because I was losing so much hair. And that started about, I would say about 4 months postpartum. Finally, I want to talk about actually becoming a mom, and after you have the baby and having to now be responsible for this life. That is a whole different experience that I was not expecting. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. You know, sometimes we get so focused on just wanting to become pregnant that we don't really realize the gravity and the enormous responsibility of raising and taking care of a small little human being. I've had a few ladies, you know, contact me saying like, you know, I'm a single woman, I'm, you know, 40 now, I'm, you know, nowhere near getting married, and I really want a baby, and I don't care if I don't have a husband. I can't wait any longer, or a partner or whatever. And I want to have a baby, so I'm gonna go to a sperm bank and do all this stuff and try to have the baby. And I'm like, okay, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? Because I seriously could not have done it without John by my side. I would have died. And I'm just being totally honest. Like, if you're a super mom and you do it all, awesome, you know, but I absolutely relied on John to help me with David, especially in the beginning. You are exhausted, and for working moms, it's a lot worse. So, I mean, I just want to let you guys know that, you know, it's not what I really expected. You know, what I was thinking of all the flowery stuff, you know, how wonderful it is to have this cute, you know, child of mine, and I could love, and that's all there. But the reality of, you know, like raising him and taking care of him, it's all consuming. And so it's one of those things where you don't really know what it's going to be like unless you go through it yourself. You know, that's one of the things that I realized was, if you're looking from afar and you kind of have this idea of it, you know, it's nothing like what you even thought or imagined. It's so much harder, and it's so much work, and it's all consuming, and yeah, you really have to be ready for it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Another thing that I wasn't expecting was the strain that it puts on your marriage. So having David was really tough for John and I in our marriage, you know, and I talked a little bit about that on my Snapchat, that we really went through a hard time, because, you know, you argue because it's like he has a certain way that he thinks is right to do something, and I have my, you know, thoughts on how it should be done, and, you know, and John and I got in the biggest, worst fights ever in our marriage after having David. So that's something to prepare for. And, you know, of course, we went through counseling and we got some help for it, and we learned now so much more about each other. So that's another thing, is if you're going to have a baby with someone, really make sure that your marriage is solid. And John and I, being Christians, thankfully we have Christ, we have Jesus as our model to look after. So it helps when you have that foundation, that firm foundation of, you know, God in the marriage. The other thing is, after having David, it truly just sort of opened my eyes to the amazingness of our Creator, you know, God. I feel my faith just jumped. Like, it took my faith to a whole new level, and that was something that I was not expecting. Like, I understood the love of Christ so much more, the whole concept of sacrifice and how that relates to love. So I just have a few tips for new moms. If you're pregnant or about to give birth, just be ready for everyone to have an opinion about your pregnancy. I was told, even from my mom, like, you're gonna hear stories, okay? You're gonna hear stories, and you might even hear horrible stories, and you're kind of like, why did you have to tell me that? I don't need to hear that right now. Like, I was told, oh my gosh, I knew of someone who was 5 months pregnant and the baby died in their stomach. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, things like that. Don't let people, you know, get to you. Don't let people kind of ruin your day with their horror stories. Another big tip that I have for new mommies is, after you give birth, try not to have visitors that are going to be staying with you long term to help with help with the baby. Like, for instance, my mom, she was helping with the baby right away. She was spending the night, you know, at our place for, you know, days on end sometimes, and she would be like trying to interfere with like how to take care of the baby, if you know what I mean. Like, she has to say, you should do it this way, you should do it that way, and then you feel like you totally suck as a mom. So try not to have guests or like long-term help guests for at least, I would say, 3 to 4 months, because that's a precious time for you to, I don't know, bond with your baby, just to get used to having a little baby now. And not only that, you're trying to breastfeed, and that is stressful enough, let alone having someone there like, you know, like that in your ear. So just be mindful of that. Another tip I have for new mommies is to try to get all your beauty stuff done before the baby comes. So whether you need a haircut, you need to go get waxed, or you want to do some spa or facial or anything like that, try to do as much of that, you know, pedicures and stuff like that. Try to do as much of that as possible, because you will not have time after the baby is born. You're going to be so busy round the clock, you know, feeding this baby. Another thing is, I would say, if you like your leisurely activities, whether you like reading or movies or things like that, make sure you try to watch a lot of movies and read a lot of books, the books that you want to read while you're pregnant, because again, you're not going to have time to do those things either. So anyways, that's really all I can think of right now. So those are my thoughts and my reflections on my pregnancy, postpartum, and just being a mommy for the past year. It's a wonderful thing to be a mommy. It's the most rewarding thing, and I never thought that my heart could love another person so much. And it is quite an experience, and it's such a blessing from God to have children. So that's all I wanted to say in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!